I knew letting a black woman near white children would be trouble. The slap echoes through the Sterling mansion. Richard Young strikes Grace Williams hard across the face. The therapy notebook falls, her grandmother's notes scattering across marble. You sneak into those twins' room after midnight, putting your dirty black hands all over Mr. Young's disabled white children, touching them, undressing them, moving their helpless bodies. Grace touches her burning cheek. I was helping. Helping? Richard crushes the pages under his heel. You're a dropout touching a billionaire's 6-year-old twins. I'm calling Mr. Young right now to tell him what his black nanny does every night in the dark. She reaches for her phone. 2 floors above, Nathaniel Sterling sits frozen in his private security room. On the monitor in front of him, his children's bedroom, 2 a.m., last night's footage. Grace, the twins. Something he never expected to see. His hand hovers over the phone. One call will change everything, but who should he be calling about? The Manhattan skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. Nathaniel Young stood with his back to the 32nd applicant that month, watching cars crawl like ants below. Mr. Young? The woman behind him had 3 degrees. Her resume screamed excellence. I specialize in pediatric trauma cases. I've worked with... Do you pity them? Nathaniel turned. 44 years old, silver threading his temples, exhaustion carved into his face. I'm sorry. My children, when you look at them, do you see tragedy? The woman hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. Thank you for coming. He pressed the intercom. Patricia, please show Miss Harrison out. When the door closed, Nathaniel sank into his chair. 11 months since the accident. 11 months since a drunk driver ran a red light and turned his twins into... what? Victims, patients, children who would never run again? 9 specialists. 31 applicants for home care. Everyone looked at Wesley and Sophia Young with the same expression, pity wrapped in professional courtesy. His phone buzzed. Richard. Of course. Still wasting time on nanny interviews? His older brother's voice dripped disapproval. The merger meeting is in 3 hours, Nathaniel. Young Technologies needs its CEO, not its grief counselor. I'm their father first. Father of 2 permanently disabled children who already have medical staff. You need someone to change diapers and warm bottles, not Mary Poppins. Nathaniel hung up. Richard had built Young Technologies alongside him, but lately his brother only saw the twins as liabilities, distractions from profit margins. The intercom crackled. Mr. Young, there's one more applicant, Grace Williams. She doesn't have an appointment, but... Send her away. Sir, she's been waiting 6 hours. Something in Patricia's tone made him pause. Fine. 5 minutes. Grace Williams entered like she belonged in a different building entirely. 42, maybe? Black woman in a simple cardigan and slacks from a department store clearance rack. No briefcase, just a worn folder and eyes that had seen things. She sat without being invited. You're angry, Grace said simply. Excuse me? At the world, at drunk drivers, at God, maybe. At yourself, definitely. She met his stare. I would be too. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. My assistant said you have childcare experience. 15 years, mostly working families in Queens. Nothing fancy. She slid the folder across his mahogany desk. No college degree, no certifications in trauma care, just a lot of scraped knees, bad dreams, and teaching kids that being scared doesn't mean being broken. My children aren't scared. They're paralyzed. I know. Car accident, spinal trauma, L1, L2 compression. Prognosis poor. Grace folded her hands. I read the news story, saw your press conference. Our family appreciates privacy during this difficult time. Then you understand why this interview is over. Mr. Young, 30 people told you they could help. I won't lie to you like that. She stood, smoothing her cardigan. But I can promise that if you hire me, I will never look at Wesley and Sophia and see wheelchairs first. I'll see 2 8-year-olds who need someone to believe they're still whole. Nathaniel studied her. No polish, no pedigree, just quiet certainty. Why do you want this job? The salary is modest for live-in care. Grace's expression flickered, something dark and old. Because some of us don't get to walk away from our mistakes, Mr. Young. We carry them. And if we're lucky, we find ways to make them mean something. Silence filled the office like a held breath. My brother will hate this, Nathaniel muttered. Brothers often do. Shall I meet the children? The twins' room occupied the entire east wing. Medical equipment hummed quietly. Wesley lay in one bed reading comics, his legs motionless beneath crisp sheets. Sophia sat in her wheelchair by the window, staring at Central Park's green expanse, a place she'd once run through. Both turned when Grace entered. She didn't gasp, didn't offer that sympathetic head tilt every adult gave them now. Instead, she walked to Wesley's bed and picked up his comic. Spider-Man? Decent choice, though personally I'm partial to Storm. Weather control beats wall crawling any day. Wesley blinked. You read comics? Used to read them to... Grace stopped. To kids I looked after. What issue are you on? As Wesley explained the plot, Grace moved to Sophia's wheelchair. The girl's jaw was set, arms crossed. Grace knelt down, eye level, not looking down. You're angry too, Grace said quietly. Sophia's eyes flashed. Everyone says they understand. They don't. You're right. I don't understand what you're going through. Grace touched the wheelchair's armrest. But I understand what it's like when your body stops doing what your brain tells it, when everyone treats you different, when you wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. Sophia's facade cracked slightly. How? Grace pulled up her sleeve. A jagged scar ran from wrist to elbow. Long story. Involves a stupid decision and very understanding doctors. She released the sleeve. Point is, we're all fixing something, Sophia. The question isn't whether we're broken. It's whether we find someone who helps us heal, or at least tries. Wesley wheeled himself closer, fascinated. Are you going to be our nanny? If your father says yes, and if you two don't drive me completely crazy. Crazy is relative, Sophia said, almost smiling. Almost. 3 weeks in, Grace learned the twins' real routines. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, physical therapy with Dr. Sarah Mitchell's team. Wesley screamed during nerve tests. Sophia endured in bitter silence. The therapists were skilled, clinical, detached. They manipulated limbs like mechanics checking parts. Any sensation, they'd ask? No, the twins would lie, because admitting the occasional tingle felt like false hope. Tuesday, Thursday, home tutoring. The kids used to love school. Now equations and essays felt pointless when you couldn't walk to recess. Every night, medications, muscle relaxants to prevent spasms, anti-inflammatories, sleep aids when the phantom pains came, the cruel trick where their brains insisted their legs still worked, sending signals into an abyss. Grace watched it all with patient eyes. Dr. Mitchell pulled Nathaniel aside after the Friday session. The specialist was brilliant, late 40s, with the gentle firmness of someone who delivered hard truths daily. Mr. Young, I need to be direct. The spinal trauma at L1, L2, it's severe. We've seen minimal improvement in 11 months. She glanced at the twins who couldn't hear from the therapy room. The likelihood of them regaining functional mobility is less than 5%. We're talking assisted living, wheelchairs, permanent adaptation. Nathaniel's face remained stone. And if we try more aggressive treatments? We've exhausted the standard protocols. Anything experimental would require them to be guinea pigs for procedures with unknown outcomes. Dr. Mitchell touched his arm. I'm not saying give up hope. I'm saying adjust expectations. Your children can still have full, meaningful lives, just different than you imagined. When she left, Nathaniel stood in the hallway, forehead against the cool wall. Grace found him there 20 minutes later. You heard, he said. I did. Do you think she's right? Grace considered. I think doctors know medicine. They don't always know miracles. Miracles, Nathaniel laughed bitterly. I run a tech empire. I believe in data, not magic. Then believe in this. Your kids are fighting every day. They just need someone fighting with them, not for them. There's a difference. That night, Grace heard Wesley sobbing through his door. She entered quietly. The boy tried to hide his tears. I'm supposed to be brave, he choked out. Dad needs me to be brave. Grace sat on the bed's edge. Being sad isn't the opposite of being brave, sweetheart. Sometimes crying is the bravest thing we do. I just want to play soccer again, or run, or just walk to the bathroom by myself. His voice broke. Why did this happen to us? I don't know. Life's unfair that way. Are we ever going to get better? Grace could have lied, could have offered false promises like everyone else. Instead, she took his hand. I don't know that either, Wesley. But I know you're not alone, and I know giving up helps nobody. So tomorrow, we try again, and the day after, and the day after that, until something changes or we've fought so hard that even if nothing changes, we're still standing. Deal? I can't stand. You know what I mean. Wesley managed a watery smile. Deal. From the doorway, Sophia watched. When Grace looked up, the girl quickly rolled away. But Grace caught the expression, hunger for that same reassurance, wrapped in defiance. Later, after both twins finally slept, Grace stood in the bathroom. She stared at the scar on her arm. 12 years old now. 12 years since the day that destroyed her career and nearly destroyed her soul. Jake Morrison, 17 years old, promising athlete. One bad therapy session under her watch, a machine malfunction she should have caught, combined with her pushing too hard, and he'd torn his ACL beyond repair. The lawsuit cleared her technically. The medical board investigated and found the equipment faulty, but Grace knew the truth. She'd been distracted, grieving her own losses, and hadn't triple-checked the settings. Her license was suspended, then ultimately revoked after she didn't fight the appeal. She couldn't. The guilt was too heavy. 12 years of low-wage jobs, 12 years of avoiding anything that required her skills, 12 years of penance. Until she saw the young family on the news, 2 children 8 years old told they'd never walk again, and something inside Grace whispered, "Try once more. Do it right this time." She hummed the lullaby her own mother used to sing, soft, aching, hopeful. From down the hall, Sophia's voice joined in, barely audible. The girl knew the melody too. Somehow. February arrived with snow that blanketed Central Park in white silence. Grace approached Nathaniel one morning as he prepared for work. "I'd like to implement an evening routine with the twins. Gentle stretching, therapeutic massage, meditation techniques to manage their pain." Nathaniel looked up from his tablet. "Their PT team already handles that 3 times weekly." "I know, but the body responds to consistent work. Daily attention, not just clinical sessions." Grace kept her voice level. "It'll help them sleep better, reduce muscle atrophy, give them more control over their own care." "Will it help them walk?" The question hung like a blade. "It'll help them hope," Grace said quietly. "Sometimes that's more important." Nathaniel studied her. Something about Grace Williams unsettled him. The way she looked at his children like she saw beyond the wheelchairs, like she knew secrets she wouldn't share. "Fine. But if it causes them pain, I'll stop immediately. You have my word." That evening, Grace began. She worked with Wesley first, showing him how to massage his own calves, teaching him to feel the muscles even if they wouldn't respond to commands yet. "Pretend your brain is talking to your legs," she instructed. "Tell them, 'I remember you. I haven't forgotten.'" Wesley giggled. "That sounds silly. So does thinking we can split atoms or land on the moon, but humans did both. Humor me." With Sophia, Grace was gentler. The girl's anger ran deeper. Grace simply sat beside her, hands working the girl's legs in slow, methodical patterns. "This hurts," Sophia said through gritted teeth. "I know. Want me to stop?" "No." "Why?" Sophia's eyes blazed. "Because if there's even a 1% chance this helps, I'm taking it." Grace smiled. "There's my fighter." The routine stretched from 7 p.m. to nearly 11. Grace didn't ask for overtime pay. She simply stayed, working in lamplight while the city glittered beyond the windows. Nathaniel noticed her dedication. He noticed other things, too. How Grace bought specialized equipment with her own money. Resistance bands, acupressure tools, a medical-grade foam roller that cost $300. "You don't have to spend your salary on them," he said one night. Grace shrugged. "It's my money, my choice." "Why do you care this much?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because I've seen what happens when people give up, Mr. Young. And I've seen what happens when someone believes past reason. I choose to believe." But Grace didn't tell him the whole truth. Didn't mention that she'd been a licensed physical therapist once, that she knew exactly which muscle groups to target, which neural pathways to stimulate, that every technique she used came from years of professional training. She worked in secret, hoping, praying that somehow her skills would translate where modern medicine had failed. Wesley began showing the most improvement first. By March, he reported tingling in his feet during their evening sessions. Sophia felt nothing yet, but her muscles grew stronger under Grace's care. The twins kept their pact with Grace, tell no one. But they weren't the only ones watching. Richard Young stood outside the twins' room one night, 11:30 p.m. showing on his Rolex. Light glowed beneath the door. He heard muffled sounds, Grace's voice, gentle commands, Wesley's small grunts of effort. What the hell was she doing in there so late? Richard returned to Nathaniel's study where his younger brother pored over merger documents. Your nanny's still with the kids. It's past midnight. Nathaniel barely looked up. She's dedicated. Or she's doing something she shouldn't. Richard poured himself scotch. Have you vetted her thoroughly? Background check? References? Patricia handled it. Everything came back clean. Clean doesn't mean qualified. What if she's, I don't know, practicing medicine without a license? If Wesley or Sophia gets hurt because of her amateur hour treatments, we're liable. She's helping them sleep. That's all. Is it? Richard set down his glass. Install cameras. For everyone's protection, including hers. Nathaniel frowned. That seems invasive. So is a lawsuit when something goes wrong. Think about it. Richard left, but the seed was planted. And in the dark corners of his mind, Richard smiled. The twins' continued disability was convenient, tragic but convenient, because Nathaniel's will stipulated that if anything happened to him, his children inherited everything, unless they were deemed incapable of managing the estate. Then control shifted to the next competent family member. Richard Young had helped build an empire. He'd be damned if he wouldn't inherit his fair share. April 15th, Dr. Mitchell's routine examination. Wesley lay on the examination table while the specialist checked his reflexes with practiced precision. The standard hammer tap on the knee, pressure tests on the feet, pinprick sensitivity trials. Then something unexpected. When Dr. Mitchell tapped just below Wesley's kneecap, his foot twitched. Wait! Dr. Mitchell tried again. Another twitch. Wesley, did you feel that? Yeah, kinda, like something tickled. The specialist's eyes widened. She immediately ran full neural response tests. 15 minutes later, she emerged from the examination room, tablet in hand, expression caught between professional skepticism and wonder. Mr. Young, I need you to see these scans. Nathaniel rushed over. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something's right. Impossibly right. Dr. Mitchell pulled up comparative images. This is Wesley's muscle density from 3 months ago. This is today. Look at the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, his calves. They've developed significantly, more than they should given his limited mobility. What does that mean? It means someone has been doing intensive physical therapy with him, far beyond what our clinic provides 3 times a week, the kind of consistent, skilled work that requires professional knowledge. She looked directly at Nathaniel. Have you hired additional specialists? No, just Grace, our nanny. She does evening stretches with them. These aren't results from casual stretching, Mr. Young. This is medical-grade intervention, and it's working. Dr. Mitchell scrolled through more data. His neural pathways are showing response patterns I frankly didn't expect to see, ever. Whatever this Grace is doing, she has real expertise. Nathaniel felt hope ignite in his chest, dangerous, fragile hope. Could he walk again? I won't make promises. But 6 months ago, I gave you a 5% chance. Today, I'd say 15%, possibly higher if this progress continues, which seems, she shook her head, medically unlikely but empirically undeniable. That evening, Nathaniel hosted a celebration dinner. Wesley's improvement felt like air after drowning. Even Sophia seemed lighter, though her own progress lagged. To small miracles, Nathaniel toasted, raising sparkling cider toward Grace. She smiled but barely touched her glass. Guilt gnawed at her. She was lying to this family, practicing without a license. If anything went wrong, if Wesley regressed or Sophia suffered injury during their secret sessions, she'd destroy not just her own life again, but theirs too. Richard sat at the table's far end, watching, calculating. After dinner, he cornered Nathaniel in the study. I'm installing security cameras, full coverage, including the twins' room. That's excessive. It's prudent. Think about it. Grace is doing something that's producing results doctors can't explain. What if she's cutting corners, using unapproved techniques? If something goes wrong and we can't prove we monitored the situation, our liability is limitless. Nathaniel wavered. The kids will hate being watched. The cameras are hidden, for their protection and hers. If she's doing everything properly, the footage will prove it. If not... Richard shrugged. Better we know. Against his better instincts, Nathaniel agreed. 2 days later, Richard's security team installed pinhole cameras throughout the estate. The twins' bedroom, the therapy room, the playroom, all feeding to a secure server Richard personally controlled. He told Nathaniel it was for comprehensive security. He didn't mention he'd be reviewing every single night of footage. That night, at 2:38 a.m., the cameras captured everything. Grace entered the twins' room after they'd fallen asleep from their regular 10 p.m. routine. But then she began again. Real physical therapy, medical-grade range of motion exercises, muscle stimulation techniques that required precise knowledge of anatomy. She worked for 90 minutes straight. Wesley woke during his session. "Miss Grace, you don't have to do this every night." "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because I made a promise. To you, to myself, to someone I failed a long time ago." Her voice cracked. "Now close your eyes, sweetheart. This next part pinches." She manipulated his ankle through dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, textbook PT methodology. Wesley gritted his teeth but didn't cry out. When Grace finished with Wesley, she moved to Sophia. The girl was harder, less flexibility, more spinal nerve damage, but Grace worked with fierce determination, whispering encouragement. "I know it hurts. I know you're tired of fighting. But your body remembers, Sophia. It remembers running and dancing and being wild. We just have to remind it." Sophia's eyes fluttered open. "Do you really think we'll walk again?" Grace's hands stilled. "I think miracles require partnership. God does half. We do half. And sometimes if we work hard enough, our half is enough." "That doesn't answer the question." "Because I don't have the answer, baby. I just have hope. And these hands. And the belief that trying matters more than succeeding." The camera recorded every word, every motion, every professional technique Grace employed with the skill of someone who'd trained for years. The next morning, Richard watched the footage 3 times. Then he made calls to lawyers, to medical licensing boards, to private investigators who specialized in employment background checks. By noon, he had everything he needed. Grace Williams, former licensed physical therapist. License revoked 12 years ago following a malpractice incident involving a teenage patient. She'd never disclosed this to Nathaniel, had falsified her resume by omission, claiming only child care experience. Technically, she was practicing medicine without a license on minors. Criminal charges were possible. Civil liability was guaranteed if anything went wrong. Richard could have stopped there, could have simply informed Nathaniel and let the chips fall. But Richard Young hadn't become COO of a billion-dollar company by playing fair. He'd gotten there by being 3 steps ahead, by seeing opportunities others missed. And this was an opportunity. If the twins recovered fully, Nathaniel would remain distracted by fatherhood, and Richard would continue playing second fiddle. But if the twins remained disabled, and if Grace's unlicensed treatments could be blamed for any setbacks, the situation became very different. Moreover, if Grace were exposed now, mid-treatment, the twins would lose the one person actually helping them. They'd deteriorate emotionally, possibly physically. Nathaniel would spiral into grief again. The company merger would suffer. And Richard, the stable one, the pragmatic one, would have to step in to save everything, including, eventually, the inheritance. Richard called his lawyer. "I need you to prepare documentation, malpractice exposure, criminal liability, failure to disclose. Make it airtight, but don't file anything yet." "When then?" "When I say. This needs perfect timing." He closed his laptop, steepled his fingers, and smiled. The twins had improved just enough to give everyone hope. Now Richard would rip that hope away at the exact moment it hurt most. Chess, after all, was won by controlling the board 3 moves before checkmate. May bloomed with unexpected warmth. Wesley could wiggle all 10 toes now. Sophia reported weird feelings like electricity in her knees. Both children laughed more. Color returned to Nathaniel's face. Even the staff noticed the change. The young household felt alive again. Grace and Nathaniel spent late evenings talking after the twins slept. Conversations about Eleanor, the wife he'd lost to cancer 2 years before the accident. about the weight of running an empire while raising disabled children, about grief and guilt and learning to breathe again. "Eleanor would have loved you," Nathaniel said one night, the words slipping out unguarded. Grace looked up from her tea. "I didn't know her. I mean, she would have appreciated what you've done for them, for us." He paused. "I appreciate it too. More than I can express." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, not quite romance, not quite friendship. A connection forged in shared purpose. Grace broke the moment gently. "They're your children, Mr. Young. I'm just the help. You're more than that. You know you are." But Grace couldn't let herself believe it, because the lies beneath her help made any genuine connection impossible. Every day she didn't confess her past was another day she built a house on sand. Saturday afternoon, they took the twins to Central Park. Sophia and Wesley wheeled themselves along the path while Grace and Nathaniel walked behind. Spring sunshine painted everything gold. For 2 hours, they were almost normal, just a family enjoying the day. Wesley pointed at kids playing soccer. "Next year, Miss Grace. Next year I'm joining them." "Confident, are we? You said miracles need partnership. I'm doing my half." Grace's throat tightened. "Yes, you are." Nathaniel squeezed her shoulder. "Thank you for not giving up on them when I almost did." That evening, Richard stood at his penthouse window, phone pressed to his ear. "Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Have the lawyers meet me at Nathaniel's office with all the documentation." "Are you sure about the timing?" Richard watched his brother's building across the skyline. "Absolutely sure. They're happy right now. That makes it perfect." He ended the call and poured himself scotch. By this time tomorrow, Grace Williams would be gone, the twins would be devastated, and Nathaniel would finally see that hope was always a lie. Richard drank deeply and didn't feel a thing. "Sit down, Nathaniel." Sunday morning, the study. Richard stood flanked by 2 lawyers holding tablets and file folders thick with documentation. Nathaniel glanced between them, confusion shifting to dread. "What's this about?" "It's about protecting this family from criminal liability, and about the woman you've allowed unsupervised access to your children." Richard nodded to the first lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Keene. "Show him." She activated the wall screen. Footage appeared, infrared, time-stamped 2:38 a.m., showing Grace working on Wesley's legs with unmistakable professional skill. Nathaniel's breath caught. "What am I watching?" "Your nanny," Richard said coldly. "Practicing medicine without a license, on minors, in your home for months." More footage played. Grace manipulating joints, using medical equipment, performing techniques that required years of training. The timestamps ran for weeks. April 3rd, April 10th, April 18th, each showing the same pattern. She's been helping them. You saw Wesley's progress." "I saw unlicensed medical intervention." Patricia Keene pulled up a document. "Grace Williams, licensed physical therapist from 2008 to 2013. License permanently revoked following a malpractice incident where a 17-year-old patient suffered severe injury under her care." The room tilted. "What?" "The patient was Jake Morrison, high school athlete. Torn ACL, permanent damage, athletic career destroyed. Equipment malfunction combined with procedural negligence. Grace Williams was found partially at fault. She never fought to get her license back, never disclosed her past when she applied to work here. She lied by omission on every background form." Nathaniel felt sick. "But the background check?" "Found nothing," Richard interrupted, "because she listed herself as a childcare worker, not a medical professional. Technically, she never lied, but she deliberately concealed relevant information. That's fraud." The second lawyer, a man named Martin Brooks, stepped forward. "Mr. Young, if either of your children suffers injury as a result of Miss Williams's unlicensed treatments, you're liable, criminally and civilly. The exposure is significant. Millions in potential damages, possible charges of child endangerment for allowing unlicensed care." "She's been helping them! Wesley can feel his legs now because of her!" "Or," Patricia said quietly, "Wesley's showing natural neurological recovery that would have happened anyway, and Grace Williams is taking credit while simultaneously putting both children at risk. If Sophia doesn't improve at the same rate and suffers psychological harm from false hope, that's actionable. If Wesley's progress plateaus or reverses due to improper technique, that's actionable. The liability is everywhere, Mr. Young. Richard circled to his brother's side. I know this is hard, but you have to think clearly. This woman lied to you. She's using your children to assuage her own guilt over the patient she injured 12 years ago. She's playing God with their bodies, and sooner or later it will end badly. It always does. Nathaniel stared at the frozen footage on screen. Grace's face illuminated by the camera's glow, eyes filled with fierce determination. I need to talk to her. We've already sent security to bring her here. 10 minutes later, Grace stood in the study, flanked by security guards. She saw the lawyers, the footage, the documents, and she knew. Mr. Young, is it true? His voice shook. Were you a licensed physical therapist? Grace's shoulders sagged. Yes. Did you lose your license because a patient was hurt? The equipment malfunctioned, but yes, I was the supervising therapist. It was my responsibility. And you never told me? No. You've been practicing on my children, 8-year-old children, without a license, without my informed consent, while I trusted you. Nathaniel's words came out broken, disbelieving. Why? Grace's eyes filled with tears. Because I couldn't save Jake Morrison. Because I've lived with that failure every single day for 12 years. Because when I saw Wesley and Sophia on the news, I saw a chance to do something right. To use the skills I have, skills I trained years to develop, to help children who needed them. Her voice cracked. I know what I did was wrong legally, but morally, Mr. Young, I couldn't stand by and do nothing when I had the ability to help. You lied to me. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything, and I know that's splitting hairs, but it's not splitting hairs, it's betrayal. Nathaniel looked at her like a stranger. Everything you've done here is built on deception. How do I trust anything about you now? Look at Wesley. Look at what he can do now compared to 6 months ago. Richard stepped forward. Miss Williams, you need to leave. Immediately. Grace turned to him, seeing clearly for the first time. You planned this. You've been waiting for the right moment to protect my family, yes. I won't apologize for that. Your family! Grace laughed bitterly. You don't care about those children. You care about... Security escort, Miss Gort. Williams off the premises. She has 30 minutes to pack her belongings. Mr. Young, Grace pleaded. Nathaniel, please, I know I should have told you. I know I broke protocol, but I never hurt them. I would never hurt them. You've seen the progress. I've seen lies. Nathaniel couldn't look at her. You need to go, Grace, before I decide to press charges. The words hit like bullets. Grace stood frozen, then nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything except trying to help your children, that I'll never be sorry for. Security took her arms, led her toward the door. As she passed, Grace caught sight of the doorway. Wesley and Sophia stood there in their wheelchairs, having heard everything. Wesley's face crumpled. Dad, no, you can't send her away. Wesley, go back to your room. She's been helping us. She's the only one who... Wesley! Nathaniel's voice cracked like thunder. Room, now! Sophia said nothing. Just stared at her father with eyes full of betrayal and understanding beyond her years. The twins wheeled away slowly. Grace watched them go, tears streaming down her face. Please, she tried once more, don't give up on them. Promise me you won't give up. But Nathaniel had already turned his back. That night, alone in her apartment, Grace broke. 12 years of carrying guilt, 12 years of penance, and for what? To fail again? To hurt another family by trying to help? She sobbed into her pillow until no more tears came. On her nightstand, her phone buzzed repeatedly. Calls from Wesley's iPad, texts from both twins begging her to come back. She couldn't. The law was clear. She'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. Outside, rain began to fall. And somewhere across the city, 2 children sat in the dark, wondering if hope was always a lie after all. 3 days without Grace felt like 3 years. Wesley refused to work with the replacement care staff. Sophia went completely silent, not angry outbursts anymore, just hollow absence. They stopped trying in physical therapy, stopped smiling, stopped hoping. Dr. Mitchell noticed immediately. On Friday, she pulled Nathaniel aside after another failed session. What happened to Grace Williams? She's no longer with us. That's obvious from your children's deterioration. What I'm asking is why, because in my 20 years as a specialist, I've never seen two patients regress this rapidly without medical cause. Nathaniel explained everything. The license, the malpractice, the deception. Dr. Mitchell listened, then sighed heavily. Mr. Young, I need to tell you something. After Wesley's improvement, I reviewed the security footage you showed me. I also did research. Research into Grace, into her methods, and I consulted with 3 colleagues, including a neurologist and a rehabilitation specialist. Dr. Mitchell pulled up images on her tablet. What Grace Williams was doing? It's called intensive neuroplasticity training. Cutting-edge stuff. And she was doing it perfectly. Better than perfect, actually. Textbook technique combined with intuitive adjustments based on each child's individual response. But she lost her license 12 years ago due to equipment failure. I pulled the original case files. The medical board's investigation showed the machine she was using had a defective safety sensor. 3 other patients at that facility reported similar malfunctions that same month. Grace Williams was scapegoated because someone had to take responsibility, and the clinic had better lawyers than she did. Nathaniel's world tilted. That's not what Richard's lawyers said. Richard's lawyers told you what your brother wanted you to hear. Mr. Young, the case was overturned on appeal 8 months after the original ruling. Grace Williams was fully cleared of negligence. She could have reapplied for her license. She chose not to because... Dr. Mitchell paused. Because guilt doesn't care about legal verdicts. She never told me that. Would you have listened? Or would you have seen malpractice and stopped there? Dr. Mitchell's expression softened. I'm not saying what she did was legally correct. She should have disclosed her background. But what she was doing with your children, that was healings, Mr. Young, real medically sound healing. And now that it's stopped, they're breaking. Nathaniel sat down heavily. What do I do? Talk to them, actually listen, and maybe reconsider who the villain is in this story. That evening, Nathaniel entered the twins' room. Wesley was curled in bed, facing the wall. Sophia sat in her wheelchair by the window, staring at nothing. We need to talk. No, we don't, Sophia said flatly. Sophia, you sent away the only person who believed in us. Because she made a mistake 12 years ago? Because she tried to help us the only way she knew how? Sophia spun her wheelchair around, eyes blazing. You gave up on her the same way everyone gave up on us. So no, Dad, we don't need to talk. Wesley sat up slowly. His face was blotchy from crying. I called Miss Grace. She won't answer. I think she thinks we hate her. Do you? We love her, Wesley said simply. She's the only adult who treated us like we were still us, not our wheelchairs, not our accident, just us. Nathaniel knelt between them. I'm sorry. I was scared. When I found out she'd lied, she didn't lie, Sophia interrupted. She just didn't tell you things that would make you judge her before you knew her. That's different. Is it? Yes. Because if she'd told you on day 1 that she used to be a physical therapist who lost her license, you never would have hired her. You would have seen risky instead of qualified. Just like everyone sees us as broken instead of healing. The words hit Nathaniel like a truck. His daughter, 8 years old, had more wisdom than he'd shown in months. Wesley pulled something from under his pillow, a small notebook. Uncle Richard talks on the phone sometimes, when he thinks we can't hear. I wrote down the things he said. He handed the notebook to Nathaniel, page after page of hastily scribbled notes. Once the kids are confirmed permanently disabled, the trust restructure happens automatically. Nathaniel's too emotional. Can't see the business clearly. If the nanny keeps succeeding, we have a problem. Nathaniel's blood ran cold. When did he say these things? Lots of times. February, March, last week. Wesley's voice dropped to a whisper. I think Uncle Richard wants us to stay broken, Dad. Sophia added, he canceled our PT appointments twice, told the service there was a scheduling conflict, but there wasn't. I checked the calendar. Nathaniel stood abruptly, notebook clenched in his fist. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Richard's insistence on cameras, the perfectly timed exposure, the lawyers armed with damning but incomplete information. His brother had orchestrated everything. I need to make some calls, Nathaniel said quietly, and then I need to find Grace and bring her home. What about Uncle Richard? Wesley asked. Nathaniel's expression hardened. Uncle Richard is going to learn that hurting children, even for money, has consequences. Monday morning, Nathaniel called an emergency board meeting at Young Technologies headquarters. Present, all senior executives, the company's legal team, Dr. Sarah Mitchell as medical consultant, private investigator Marcus Hall with his complete findings, and Richard Young, who arrived expecting to discuss the upcoming merger. What he found instead was an ambush. Thank you all for coming on short notice. Nathaniel stood at the head of the conference table, tablet in hand. We're here to discuss corporate governance, fiduciary responsibility, and what happens when someone abuses their position for personal gain. Richard frowned. Nathaniel, if this is about the merger timeline, it's about you. Sit down. The room went silent. Nathaniel activated the main screen. Security footage appeared, not of Grace, but of Richard. Multiple clips showing him entering the twins' room, accessing their medical calendar, making phone calls in the hallway. This is my brother, Nathaniel said quietly. Canceling physical therapy appointments for my disabled children. Why would he do that? Marcus, share your findings. The private investigator stood. Richard Young has been systematically interfering with Wesley and Sophia Young's medical care for 9 months. He canceled 6 appointments, delayed medication refills twice, and discouraged staff from reporting progress to Mr. Young. All documented through call logs, email records, and testimony from 3 staff members who were told to keep quiet. That's absurd! Richard shot to his feet. I was protecting the children from false hope. You were protecting your inheritance. Nathaniel pulled up financial documents. Per our father's will, if anything happens to me, my children inherit controlling interest in Young Technologies. However, Clause 17b states that if the children are deemed incapable of managing the estate due to permanent disability, control transfers to the next competent family member. That's you, Richard. Gasps around the table. You needed my children to stay disabled, Nathaniel continued, voice shaking with controlled rage. Because healthy children meant I'd focus on being their father. Disabled children meant I'd be distracted, emotional, vulnerable. You could position yourself as the stable one, the rational choice, and eventually you'd have everything. You're being paranoid, am I? Nathaniel pressed a button. Audio played, Richard's phone conversations recorded via the same security system he'd installed. Once the kids are confirmed permanently disabled. If the nanny keeps succeeding, we have a problem. Nathaniel can't see clearly anymore. The boardroom erupted in shocked murmurs. The CFO looked disgusted. The head of HR was already taking notes for termination proceedings. You used my children as pawns, Nathaniel said, voice breaking. You sabotaged their recovery. You destroyed the one person actually helping them, all for money and power. Richard's face drained of color. I built this company with you. You earned nothing. You betrayed everything. Nathaniel turned to the legal team. Effective immediately, Richard Young is terminated from Young Technologies. All stock options forfeit, severance denied, and he is permanently barred from contact with my children. You can't. I already did. Security escort Mr. Young from the building. 2 guards stepped forward. Richard looked around the room desperately, searching for allies. He found none. Even executives who'd worked with him for years looked away. As security took his arms, Richard's composure finally cracked. I helped build this empire. You deserve nothing when you hurt children for profit. Nathaniel's voice cut like ice. Get him out of my sight! They dragged Richard toward the door. He fought, shouting threats about lawsuits, about exposure, about burning everything down. The door slammed shut on his voice. Nathaniel gripped the table, breathing hard. Meeting adjourned, except for Dr. Mitchell. I need your help with something. An hour later, Nathaniel knocked on a door in Queens. Grace opened it, eyes red from days of crying. She wore old sweatpants and a faded Columbia University shirt. Her PT school's logo, Nathaniel noticed. She looked small, defeated. Mr. Young, it's Nathaniel, and I owe you an apology so massive I don't even know where to start. Grace blinked, confused. Dr. Mitchell stepped into view behind Nathaniel. May we come in? The doctor asked gently. 10 minutes later, Grace sat on her couch listening as Nathaniel explained everything. Richard's sabotage, the cleared malpractice case, the children's testimony, the evidence of systematic interference. I was wrong, Nathaniel said, voice raw. I let fear and pride blind me. I judged you for a mistake that wasn't even your fault while ignoring the miracle you were creating with my children. I'm so sorry, Grace." Tears streamed down her face. "I should have told you everything from the start. Should have been honest." "About what? That 12 years ago, faulty equipment injured a patient and you took responsibility because you're too good a person to pass blame? That you've spent over a decade in penance for something the medical board cleared you of, Doctor?" Mitchell leaned forward. "Grace, I've reviewed your work with Wesley and Sophia. It's extraordinary. Not just technically sound, visionary. You adapted neuroplasticity training protocols that most PTs wouldn't attempt. You did it with zero institutional support, buying equipment from your own pocket, working unpaid hours every single night. I just wanted to help. You did more than help. You gave those children hope, and you gave their father his family back." Nathaniel pulled out an envelope. "I want to offer you a position, official, legal, as Director of Pediatric Rehabilitation at the Young Family Foundation, which I'm establishing this week. The Foundation's mission is to provide barrier-free physical therapy access to children with spinal trauma. Starting salary, $200,000 annually, full medical benefits, and a formal petition to the medical board to reinstate your PT license, backed by 3 specialist testimonials." Grace stared. I stared. "What?" "You should never have lost your license in the first place. Dr. Mitchell and her colleagues are prepared to advocate for your reinstatement. But more than that, I need you. The twins need you, not as a nanny, as a licensed professional who knows them, understands them, and fights for them. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come back. Say you'll forgive me for being a blind, prideful fool. Say you'll give us another chance." Grace couldn't speak. She just nodded, crying too hard to form words. Nathaniel reached out, took her hands. "Thank you for not giving up on my children when everyone else, including me, did." They returned to the mansion at sunset. The twins were in the sitting room with their temporary caretaker when Grace walked in. Wesley saw her first. "Miss Grace!" He launched himself forward and walked. 3 stumbling, unsteady steps before his legs gave out, but 3 steps. Sophia gasped. "Wesley, I know!" He was laughing and crying. "I walked! Grace, did you see? I walked!" Grace dropped to her knees, catching him as he fell. "I saw, baby, I saw!" Sophia wheeled over quickly, then did something no one expected. She gripped her wheelchair arms, tensed, and pushed herself upright. Her legs shook violently. She managed 1 step, then 2, 3. On the 4th, she collapsed into Grace's arms. The room exploded in tears and cheers. The caretaker was sobbing. Dr. Mitchell documented it on her phone, medically significant footage that would make journals. Nathaniel stood frozen, watching his children, his broken, supposedly hopeless children, standing. Grace held both twins, all 3 of them crying. "You came back," Sophia whispered. "I promised I'd never leave you, and I don't break my promises." Wesley pulled back, looking at his father. "Dad, you fixed it. You brought her home." "Your dad realized what matters most," Grace said softly, meeting Nathaniel's eyes across the room. "His family, and he fought for it." Nathaniel crossed the space, knelt beside them all. "We fight together from now on. No more secrets, no more doubts. Deal?" Wesley grinned through tears. "Deal?" Sophia nodded. "Deal?" Grace smiled. "Deal." Outside, the sun set over Central Park, painting the sky in gold and crimson. Somewhere across the city, Richard Young was packing his office, rage and humiliation eating him alive. But in the Young household, something impossible had happened. Hope had won. 6 months later, the Young Family Foundation's ribbon-cutting ceremony drew 200 attendees, reporters, medical professionals, families with disabled children who'd been accepted into the program. Grace stood at the podium, no longer wearing threadbare cardigans. She wore professional attire now, her PT license officially reinstated 3 months prior. But her eyes still held the same warmth, the same fierce determination. "I stand before you as someone who lost everything and found it again in the most unexpected place," she began. "This foundation exists because 2 children refused to give up on themselves. Because a father learned that love means fighting, not protecting. Because second chances aren't given. They're earned through work, pain, and belief." Behind her, Wesley and Sophia walked onto the stage, slowly using forearm crutches for support, but walking. No wheelchairs, not today. The crowd erupted in applause. Wesley took the microphone. Miss Grace taught us that miracles are real, but they don't happen by magic. They happen when someone cares enough to show up every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Sophia added, "We were told we'd never walk again. 9 doctors said it, but one person said maybe they're wrong. And she worked with us until maybe became definitely." Together, the twins presented Grace with a plaque, the Guardian Angel Award. First recipients, Wesley and Sophia Young, honoring Grace Williams. Grace accepted it, tears streaming. "You two did this, not me. You fought every single day." "We fought together," Wesley corrected. "That's what you taught us." That evening, after the crowds left, Grace walked the foundation's halls with Nathaniel. The facility was beautiful. State-of-the-art equipment, cheerful colors, spaces designed for hope rather than clinical efficiency. "We've already helped 83 children," Nathaniel said quietly. 83 families who couldn't afford intensive PT, because of you, because of your resources and willingness to invest in what matters. They stopped at a window overlooking the therapy gym. Children worked with staff, laughing and struggling and persevering, just like Wesley and Sophia had. "Grace," Nathaniel said carefully, "I know we've kept things professional, but I need you to know that you gave me more than my children back. You gave me permission to hope again, to believe in impossible things, to—" She took his hand. "I know, I feel it too." "Where do we go from here?" Grace smiled. "Forward, one step at a time, just like we taught the twins." Outside in the garden, Wesley and Sophia ran slowly, carefully, joyfully through the grass. Their laughter echoed through the evening air. Nathaniel watched them, then turned to Grace. "Thank you for everything. Thank me by helping more families, by showing them second chances exist." Grace squeezed his hand. "That's how we honor this. Deal." And for the first time in years, Nathaniel Young felt complete. What would you have done in Nathaniel's position, trusted or doubted Grace? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes in second chances. Hit subscribe for more stories about unlikely heroes who change lives when no one's watching.